All right, so because I'm in the middle, I'm the spokesman for this video. And this roundtable discussion, even though it's linear table, we're gonna discuss on range theatrics, scanning. How do you scan? Do you scan? You scan up, you scan down, you scan around, you scan from behind your legs or from backwards. I wanna ask these two gentlemen, Dave and Dorr, what they do, how we do it on the range. So, scanning. What's the why behind it? So I say, you come up to a target stand or a thing, right? So it's a thing, it's an evolution, it's a drill, whatever it might be. You complete that drill. Me personally, I teach my people a tactically sound thing is to go back to your original targets with your finger prepped on that wall. When there's nothing there, relax, gun down, finger out of the trigger well, of course, and back in the holster.
Yeah, it's doing your third, fourth, fifth, or your sixth sight picture. You're assessing what you just engaged and ensure that there's nothing else needs to be engaged in what you just did. But I stop there. I mean, I don't do all the theatrics of left shoulder, right shoulder, and I just don't.
No. Why wouldn't you? You gotta know what's behind you.
Yeah, but no.
I do know what's behind me.
Do you?
All right. Okay. Thought there was something going on there.
See, you're not sure.
Yeah, like before the internet told me so, I didn't know that scanning was, an issue or people had such passionate opinions on scanning or not scanning. With combat shooting, these things move around and they shoot back. So you're engaging something, and you need to make sure it's down all the way, and then who's to say there isn't another one? So I thought the teaching guys from the very beginning to scan after engagements was just building muscle memory because you're still looking for more things to shoot. I don't understand how anybody could get that wrong, but the combat commandos are just like all about like scanning, don't scanning. The whole thing's
360 degree awareness.
Yeah, the whole thing is just kind of confusing. So I thought we'd, see what your guys' take on it was. If you're in a actual two-way range combat environment, you need all that information. You can't get enough information. And if you're not training yourself ahead of time to scan, who's to say you're going to do it in the heat of the moment?
I have a hard time getting guys just to do third, fourth, and fifth sight pictures.
Yeah.
Much less scan. I do. Every class we get, especially when we get rolling, we're really getting into the gun hard. We're getting into the drills hard. And I'll just ask because I'll see them. They shoot, they'll drop. And and I try to get away. I honestly do. I try very hard to get away from controlled pairs as quickly as I can. We do the initial base fundamentals, and then it's into prescribed rounds. Like, this drill, 3 rounds. This drill, 4 rounds. 4 rounds to get out of that pop, drop the gun piece. But even then, I'll ask them midway through, like, hey, who's doing 4 sight pictures? I'm like, you guys, none of you are. So.
The common funny thing is how many Rangers or how many SEALs can get on a truck?
One more.
One more. So how many sight pictures you got?
One more.
One more, right? 6 shots, 7 sight pictures, man. That's all there is to it. It's really easy, I think. So it's recoil management. You're back on target. Dots where you want it to be, or your iron sights are back where you want it to be. Prepping wall, the trigger. Hey, it's cool, right? How many times have you seen a shooter shoot a bill drill or something like it, go 6 shots and immediately come back and quit? Immediately quit. One of the things I talk about often in my classes is don't be in a hurry to get out of the gunfight, right? So I want you to work that trigger and I want you to stay on target, that pregnant pause, just like it might be in real life. There's no need to go scanning all over the place, but there's something said about the follow-on sight picture for sure.
Yeah, one bad habit I do see in regards to scanning is it gets, especially on a range, not in the house, is that people are just kind of monotonously going through the motions, and they're actually training themselves to not be looking for information. And that's something I would hammer students for, not civilian students, but back at my last job when we all dress the same. But when you are scanning, if you're on a traditional firing line at a class or whatever, you should be looking at the target on either side of your target and making that decision. Is this guy or gal shooting better than me? Are their groups better? They better not be. I better tighten it up. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm actually engaging my mind to make decisions based upon what I'm looking at. I'm not just going through the motions. So, yeah, that is one thing that you got to watch out for.
Okay, scanning and subjects like this. All right, so just recently held a class, pretty good shooter, does a drill. I said, how many times did you miss? He said, I don't know. We were shooting steel. So I said, you need to know. You need to know that spatial awareness on where if you do miss that target, you have to make it up, right? You got to get back on that C-zone steel and hit it again. But that's an interesting thing. A lot of folks go overload and you can't do it. So we're asking folks to, put a lot of stuff together here, of course, when we do these classes. But man, follow on sight picture, prep the trigger, everything's finished. Okay, finally, yeah, call them back out. And this is what I talk about on the Walmart, Target, Battlefield, the shopping center, Battlefield, whatever it might be. You're probably going to be holding that pistol on somebody. So you and another guy or another gal can work through that problem. Now we're going to have to advance towards that body, get the weapon away from them. Somebody's going to have to call 911. We're going to have to do some stuff. And once that weapon's away from him and you can see he's got no weapon, guess what? We're going to have to give aid. We're probably going to have to give aid. Law enforcement officers do it all the time. So are we going to do the same? Hard.
So, how do you scan? Obviously, you're covering down on your entire field of fire, your responsibility, your slice of the pie, however you want to look at it. Generally, if you're internal, it's all about angles and positioning in the room. Your positioning in the room is going to give you your field of fire. And ideally, you'd want it to overlap with your buddies, but... It
has to.
Yeah.
If it's done correctly, it will, right?
Yeah.
So in a CQB environment, of course, you're looking at that immediate corner or immediate piece of your primary sector of fire. You're collapsing that primary sector of fire to a place and coming back to a secondary sector of fire until you're finished and there's nothing there. For instance, like the bill drill, or not a bill drill, sorry, the El-Pres drill. For those of you who aren't aware of the El-Pres drill, 3 C-zone targets about 7 meters away from you. You face away, you draw, you fire, you turn, you draw, fire, 2 shots into each. You come back to the original one and 2 shots more after a mag change. So to me, any type of plate rack, any type of shooting scenario, whether it be paper or steel, I want my students to psychologically remember to come back to the possible misses that you might have had, right? So maybe your shots were on steel, yeah, but were they killing shots? In a real situation in the Walmart parking lot, 3 thugs are there. Do we even address them each with 2, or do we do 1 at a time? And that's going to be based upon their threat level. Is one step closer? Does one have a ball bat while the other has a gun? So now you're out of order completely. But is it 1 shot each and then come back and then address them? It's certainly possible that way. So the shooter, I don't want to put words in your mouth, gents, but the shooter has to know the difference between the game, which is the plate rack, right, or the IDPA match or wherever that might be, and the real life scenario.
But the overall consensus is, in real world, you need to scan. You need that information. In situations of extremely high stress, life and death, if you didn't train to it, who's to say what you're going to do? So I say, if you're shooting tactically, definitely scan, but if you're on the range doing sports stuff and just having fun, then don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It all depends on what you're trying to get out of your training.
And even then, it's the level of scan. Again, I'll scan the engagement I just got into. But I'm not doing the big wide over my shoulder left, over my shoulder right. That's not something I could see where people would say, hey, 360-degree situational awareness for whatever reason. It's hard to argue against that, but it's not something that I put into my training system.
Right.
I'm concerned with the fight I just got into.
The variables that we're talking about here are so great. The what ifs are so many. Have a good training base where you're addressing A target to B target and then back to A to make sure it's gone, or make sure your A-zone hits need to be where they are, right? Do it under stress. Go to a match. Get involved in something like that, because chances are, if you've never been in a combat situation, the match is probably the best place to test your mettle against other men and women in the same class using the same type of weapons under a time clock to get that job done. And it's going to raise your heart rate. It's going to raise your level of intensity, and it's probably a great idea to do that. Other than that, there's no need for the no, there's no need for that. All right, so if you dug what you just heard, we need you to subscribe it. We need you to ring the bell because you want to get fed by Tactical Hyve. Share the video with your friends too, right? So that's it for me. Dutch out. God bless.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.